Quizlets are just cool flashcards, so sorry, it's just the truth. Hi everyone, my name is Abby. I'm a sophomore at the University of Notre Dame, and today I'm going to be telling you how to ace your first finals in college. This could also apply to high school finals, or it could apply to people in other years of college, but I just hope that this is helpful, especially as you're starting out with a new academic journey. So this video is going to be very similar to my last video, in which I did not edit anything because sometimes it's just a fun challenge to try to talk in a relatively composed manner for about 14 minutes, and also sometimes editing gets tiring. So let's get started. My first tip will always and forever be to ask teachers or professors for help. I know that this can be scary sometimes, especially when you're a freshman in college and you have these really accomplished professors, but I promise you the majority of them want to help you. Sometimes some of them won't, but you just gotta give it a try. Go in and ask, particularly I think this is good for final presentations, projects, and papers. Exams, it can be a little bit hard. Sometimes they don't want to disclose all of the information that will be on there. But for those more long-term assignments, you can go in with specific questions so you know exactly what you want them to help you with, and you can just ask them about that and hopefully they will respond. And I think that that just immediately gives you a leg up, and I think if you have the time to do it, even if you don't, I would just try to make the time to do it, because I think it's so important to reach out to those people, form relationships, and it's like an instant grade boost in most situations. So my second tip is something that I followed really religiously in high school, and that is to make a schedule. I don't do this a whole lot anymore, but I still think it's a good thing to do. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean that you shouldn't either. So I really love making a schedule. When I was in high school, what I would do is I would print out a calendar for December or May or whatever month it was for my finals, and then I would put at the top of it all of the amount of hours that I would want to study for each subject. So for example, I would say chemistry, and in total I want to study 6 hours for chemistry. Then I would go in and block off all of the days and the times when I wasn't free, and then I would split up those 6 hours amongst the days that I was free. And that was really helpful for me to just kind of see everything and understand and get a rough idea of what I wanted to do. I never stuck to it 100%, but I think that it was helpful at the time. Now I do sort of a similar thing, but I kind of go a little bit more loosely when I'm doing it. So I might be like, I don't take chemistry anymore, but I'll just pretend I'm a STEM major just for kicks. So let's say I'm taking chemistry and I have that exam on Thursday of the exam week. So the previous week, I would look at it and I think, okay, all right, I want to start studying on Saturday. I think I'll study for, a few hours on Saturday, then I'll come back to it on Monday and then revisit it again on Wednesday. And I think part of this comes from just knowing where you are in the class. If you feel like you already have a good mastery of the material, or if you feel like you're going to need to go over it a lot more, I would say always build in time, more time than you think you need, and then you can always have extra time if you need it. But I always think it's good to make a schedule. And if you have any questions about how many hours you should be studying for something, feel free to ask me. I'm not going to tell you that I have a good gauge, because I think it's different for everyone, but I think I have some good standard numbers of how long I think you should be studying for things. So my third tip is collaborate, but take this one with a grain of salt, because I know this can be difficult. Everything keeps coming back to when I did chemistry. Now that I major in television, yes, I do a lot more individual work, or I do more presentations and papers and that kind of thing. So it's either you have to collaborate or there literally is no collaboration aspect at all. But I think for something like an exam, you have the opportunity to either work independently or work with others. So going back to when I was in chemistry, a lot of my friends were in chemistry at the same time as me, and a lot of them just understood it a lot more than I did. So it was really great to study with them, because they could explain things to me and deepen their understanding of it, and then I could learn and hopefully absorb more of that material. Titrations, never got through this thick skull, but we can always hope for that kind of thing. So I think if you have friends who are motivated and you know that you can get down to business and that they can help you and you can help them in return, that's great. But if you know you have friends where you're just going to be really chatty the whole time, don't do it, because it'll just be bad. Even people that are not particularly chatty, I usually somehow find a way to start conversations, but just try to stay focused and work with people that you know will be helpful for you. And I guess if your teacher or your professor suggests any study groups or anything like that, that would be wonderful, like group study activities, group review activities. I would highly recommend going to those because, again, it's just a way that they're building in for you to do better on the exam or the final or whatever it might be. My next thing is to start early and to read your notes over and over again. So I know it's hard to start early. I've definitely started night before for some things, but on the whole, I do like to start early. So what I'm saying by this is maybe you were going to study for 2 or 3 days for your final. If you can, I know I keep thinking like, oh, who's actually going to do this? But I do think it is a good idea. I keep thinking that if you can start early, like let's say 2 weeks early, that would be preferable, because what I like to do is some low maintenance kind of studying. So 2 weeks in advance, I'll just start going over the notes. So it's like my brain is only operating at half capacity. I only have to half pay attention, but I'm still studying, so that when I come back to it the next day and the next day and the next day for 2 weeks, I gradually learn a little bit more and more, and by the time it comes to the night before the exam, I have that information pretty much in my brain because I've just seen it so many times. So if you can start early, start with some low brain level activities and just go with those. It doesn't have to be intense, but I promise it will help you in the long run with your memory retention. My last thing that I wanted to say is to make Quizlets, because I freaking love Quizlets, guys. I know everybody has their own things, study guides. Personally, I don't think I've ever made one of those in my life. If that works for you, make a study guide, wonderful. Or I'm trying to think about what other things people do. I don't really know, flashcards. Flashcards could work for you, but Quizlets are just cool flashcards, so sorry, it's just the truth. So you could go on Quizlet, and I love making Quizlets, just taking all the vocabulary terms, and sometimes you can even apply them to concepts as well. So let's say you have something for philosophy, and you have this principle that has a bunch of different steps of thought to it, then you could put the principle on one side and the steps of thought on the other side. So it's not necessarily like vocabulary, it's more conceptual, but I just think you can configure Quizlet in a lot of different ways. So I love that, and it's all there on that website. I'm gesturing over here because this is where my computer usually is. And it's all in one place, and it's very easy to share it with others. You could also play a fun game. I love playing a good Quizlet game. Nothing, just gets me more excited for final season than that. But yeah, I think Quizlets are great. I don't know if there are any other websites that I would recommend using. I guess my last part of this video, which is actually not very long, so this is kind of cool. Like, I love not being overly lengthy. So my last thing is just to not stress out, feed into the stress culture, and let stress consume you. So difficult. I know at my high school there were a lot of people who would talk about stress in sort of I don't want to say in a bragging way, but it was almost like you felt more qualified by saying that you had slept less. So, I stayed up until 1 a.m. studying, and I only slept for 2.5 hours because I woke up at 4 and then I studied more and whatever. I don't think that math checks out, but don't worry about it. So I don't think that that's a healthy culture to feed into. If people keep acting like they're staying up really late studying, that does not in any way mean that you have to do that. I would advise you to study when you feel you're going to be most productive. Just realize what you have to do, take a deep breath, buckle down, and do it. At least in my experience, I feel like I know when I know the material, and I know when I don't. So as long as you have this overarching commitment to try your best at school, then I think you'll be fine, because if you always keep in mind, I am going to do my best, do the best possible that I can do on this exam, just commit to that and study as long as you need to until it takes you to get to that point. I'm not saying that's easy, that takes so much discipline, but you just need to know to have that goal. I know one time I had a final that I did not study for as much as I should have, and when I got my grade back, I did not do as well as I had wanted, and it was really disappointing to me. So now in the future, I'm like, well, I'm never gonna do that again. That's not a good idea. But then I know also that grades can get kind of sticky. So it's like you tried your best, but then you don't necessarily know if that translated into the best grade. I just want to say it's not about getting the best grade. So it's so easy to get caught up in that, but I promise you, if you're putting in the work, if you talk to your professors, you made your Quizlet, you studied with friends, and you started early, and you did all of those different things, and you really put the effort in, I promise you will get whatever grade will be representative of that work, unless there's a serious issue. If you have a serious issue, contact your professor. But in most cases, you just have to be proud of the effort that you put into it. And I think as long as you try to explain that to your family or friends or whoever might be questioning that, just try your best and know that on the inside, that is all you can do. So I wish you guys a very safe and happy final season. I know it cannot always be happy, but go get yourself a peppermint mocha or something and just live it up, you know? Sounds like a good time. I also realize now that I'm filming this that it might not be final season quite yet for many people, but hopefully this video will be helpful in the future for you, and you can look back and just hopefully get some advice. So please let me know if you have any questions about finals. I know that it can be a very stressful time, but I'm always willing to answer questions in the comments. So I wish you all best of luck on all of your studies or whatever you're going through in your life right now. And I will see you all again next Thursday at 7 p.m. for, I think, something fun and special and exciting and different, but I'm not exactly sure. All right, well, see you guys. Bye.